All right, sweet. And we're live. We're here with Steve's POV. Steve, I've already said it, I'm going to say it again. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I'm just so impressed by your knowledge of the car culture of Japan, and the fact that you can speak fluent Japanese. So, again, thank you. Won't take too much of your time, but I'm just going to get right into it if that's fine. So, what about Japan initially drew your attention? Because you've been going there for a while, and I think you even worked there at one point. Does that sound right?
Correct. So I was there in the 90s, from 90, I lived there from about 93 to 99. So about 5 to almost 6 year period. But what drew me to Japan initially was not cars and not a lot of stuff that I do now. Really, it wasn't cars at all. I really didn't like Japanese cars growing up very much. I didn't have much interest. Didn't have interest in manga or anime or Japanese stuff like that. It really wasn't interest. But I was a business major in at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and this is in 1988. And at that point, Japan's economy was booming. And if you go back to that point, you think World War II ended. You're talking about just 40 years, before that, and Japan. You're talking about a country that rebuilt and was now ready to overtake the United States economy. Japanese companies were wiping out our, car industry, our electronics industries, all kinds of Japanese investors were buying Rockefeller Center. Japan was booming. So while I wasn't very interested in Japan up until then, from a business sense and from a historical sense, about how this little country with very little resources, with a landmass, in comparison to the United States, a small fraction, dependent on, importing pretty much everything to manufacture things that is could have just taken off and built this massive economic machine to the point that they were at that was pretty interesting to me. So I started taking some classes and some culture classes and political comparative classes, and this and that and a bunch of other things, and said, man, maybe if I learn the language and combine that with business degree, it'll be a good course for me, or road for me to follow, and maybe make some good money and have a nice career.
Totally. So what was the hardest thing about learning Japanese? And they say that Japanese and maybe Korean are like some of the hardest languages to learn because I mean you're learning a whole new alphabet. Like nothing, it's not a Romance language. Kind of nothing really translates. Totally out on its own.
Well, you're not just learning a whole new, alphabet per se. One, Japanese alone has three different writing systems, so there's kanji, there's hiragana, there's katakana. So you have three different writing systems. You have what do you call it? A grammar structure that is completely different than ours. In fact, in many ways, it's very opposite our grammar structure. And then within the language, you have many, many layers of politeness structure, humbleness structure, respectful structure. There's all these different layers within the language, depending in what situation you're in, who you're talking to, what you're talking about. Are you talking about a third person? Are you talking about somebody in your family versus somebody in somebody else's group, or that? And so there's, on top of just the language and the fact that it's not easy to begin with, and pronunciation and different things are completely very different than in our language, you have an entire mindset that if you don't also start to understand in Japanese, it's very hard to speak properly or relay things properly, or to fit in a culturally appropriate way.
What would you say like you were like considered like a gaijin at first, like an outsider? And if so, what was the hardest thing about working in Japan, like as an outsider. Like obviously I feel like once they understand that you know how to speak the language and do it right, you probably earn yourself some brownie points. But like what else goes into that for them to kind of like accept you and realize that you know what you're talking about, you can say it properly and all that.
Well, I mean, I certainly think the fact that I embraced the language and I always tried to speak the language and I never gave in much into speaking English at all, that I was, in meetings around important people, trusted by them. I worked as hard as they did. And
Like the Japanese salary man.
yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah.
up early. I had a suit on. I was on trains. We were out late. We drank. We had fun, and we were up early the next day doing it again. And, um, you know, gaijin, gaikokujin, gaijin. I mean, it means outside person. And so if you're Japanese and you're from a culture that is, as one as homogeneous as Japanese culture is, society is. I mean, it's 99% Japanese people. When somebody's different, as in any situation, they're different. They don't share the same language. They don't share the same things. But I always think the Japanese people have been very accepting and open to other cultures, to learning from other cultures, and I think they're very understanding of people who have worked hard to study their language and their culture and to do things properly in a Japanese way, because I think the expectation would be that somebody who looks like me, or or you maybe, or maybe you a little less than me, but just somebody who's not Japanese, they wouldn't think that you're would be trying so hard necessarily, or expect you to be trying so hard to assimilate. So when you do, I think people appreciate it, and of course, anywhere I would go in Japan, anywhere else, it's kind of hard to hide I'm not Japanese, but many times for me, speaking on the phone with people and other things, until they asked my name, they never thought that they were speaking to somebody who wasn't Japanese in many cases. So, for
Totally.
me, that was always something good, to be good enough at Japanese and understand culture enough and to surprise people. Japanese easily get surprised when do things that are, again, culturally not expected by somebody who looks like me necessarily in Japan, but do so. They're proud of their culture, and I think they're embracing of people who want to understand and try their culture, certainly not disrespect their culture, and that's something I always did. But I never felt like, because I'm gaijin, because I'm this and that. There were things that places sometimes you couldn't go. There were things that guys didn't want you to be around. Yeah, okay, I mean, that's the way it is. It's not my country. I was a guest there. I am a guest there when I
Totally.
go there, and mm, being a guest there is something that we shouldn't forget. I've been invited in. They're allowing me to be there, and again, that's a mindset that I think is important when you're there. You may not say, "What do these Japanese people do? Why do they do this? Why do they do that? Why do they get so angry about things that don't seem like a big thing?" That's their country. That's their standard. That's their way. Who are you to walk in there and expect differently? But I will tell you, as an American, and as somebody like myself, who was a business major in marketing and liked to talk a lot, everything else, that was a very hard thing, because Japanese, there's a lot of silence in Japan, in corporate environment and other places, in trains and other places. People don't mind just zipping it and not talking. And for us, American people, try it once, Cooper. Go ahead and just don't say anything to somebody and watch how uncomfortable they are with silence.
Yeah, well, I'm fit exactly into that category. I can't stand silence. I've gotten better at it throughout the years,
Yeah.
but no, I totally agree. And when I went for the first time, for one thing, I was taken aback by how kind everybody was, but just how much they mind their own business. Like, can you imagine being on a subway in New York and then compare that experience to being on the train in Japan? I mean, come on, like they have their headphones in. There's not speakers like blaring music in the background or something like that. Everybody minds their own business. Like, I mean, we were always standing up so we could have, whoever wanted to sit down, because it's like you said, we're guests. And so every once in a while, you're glancing around, absorbing it. And there are people reading manga on their phones, just on their morning commute to work and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. The number one thing I had in my mind was just like, I'm a guest here. Like, be respectful. And the few times that like I would interact with Japanese people, they were so friendly the whole time. And I guess that kind of segues into my next question, which is, what's like the number one rule for any American that's going to visit Japan? Because I mean, their tourism post COVID is booming. Like I feel like tons of people I know are going there right now, and
Yeah,
it's not just me. Like there are a ton of Americans and other foreigners just going there. So what's the number one rule?
respect. That's it.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
the word. It's very simple. Be respectful. If you can't be respectful, and respect, I mean, can be defined in a lot of different ways. But remember, you're a guest. You're in somebody's house. They have rules. You're gonna follow them, or you're gonna get thrown out, or you're not gonna be welcome back, and you're certainly not gonna like it. If you can't be respectful, don't go.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes perfect sense. Well, so kind of going into car stuff. So you said you started off not really like when you went for the first time, you weren't really like a JDM car guy. And so what initially like what drew you into that? And you're like, you can realize like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like I'm pretty interested in this stuff because you
What was
know
like?
all these crazy people there, not crazy people, but like all these really significant figures in Japanese car culture, whether it's the Drift King Keiichi Tsuchiya, did I say that right? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Like how did what pulled you into that? And I guess my next question is how did you meet all these people?
Well, I would say with the cars is that, while I grew up in the 70s and 80s and American muscle cars and street rods and hot rods and Camaros and Mustangs and chop top 3 window coupe, 5 window coupes, 50 Mercs, 49 Mercs, early 70s muscle cars, Chevelles, Impalas. That was my life, man. That's all I ever had. That's all I ever was into. I was not in the Japanese cars. I don't ever think I owned a Japanese car. In fact, the closest thing that might have been to a Japanese car at that time, I think Chevrolet Chevette had something. Maybe the engine was an Isuzu engine or something like that, because America couldn't build engines, and at that point, engines were less reliable. But never had a Japanese car. But when I I told you the story about business school and learned the language, and I got an opportunity to go to Japan for the first time in the summer of, I think it was 1990 or 91, and I got there and. As a car person, my eyes are open, and all of a sudden I start seeing these cars, and I start seeing cars that I like. I've never seen that in the US before. Dude, that thing's cool. And then Japanese guys that were in the cars were lowering the cars a little bit, and they had nice wheels, and they were styling them out. Guys were using feather dusters to wipe the cars. The guys would take their shoes off to get into their cars. Okay, that were nice. Inside the cars were clean curtain. There was no banged up cars. There was a lot of white cars in that day. Like almost like every car was white. It wasn't a lot of color, but man, the way they were styled out was different, and it was cool. And then being a car guy, you go around, and again, something I do today, just a thumbs up alone. You give somebody a thumbs up on their car, it's hard for somebody not to be happy, and then you engage with that person and you make friends, and all of a sudden, I started making friends with guys who were into cars. My language skills weren't the best, but they were into stuff that I was into. We could kind of talk about stuff and do that. And I really liked the style. Started to appreciate a culture of customizing cars that wasn't really anything like I had known in the United States. We saw these over fenders, and I saw these slammed cars, and we saw these wide, small wheels. And I mean, and we saw these, saw vans with, big wings, and we saw trucks that, looked like they were like crazy trucks with lights and all this other stuff. Um, and it grew on me really fast. And then I started seeing skylines, the cars that we had never seen ever before. And I started seeing other Japanese cars that didn't exist in the United States market, or even if they did, they were the right-hand drive version of it, and they were so clean, and they had such little mileage on them, and it just, as a car guy, maybe it was just natural, but something I wasn't aware of, into, or my eyes weren't open to, became opened up when I got there and started seeing things that I hadn't seen before.
What was the first JDM car that you were like, wow, I have to own one of these?
Hakosuka.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And
a.
do you have one right now, right? Or do you have several? Okay, gotcha.
I only have one Hakosuka.
Gotcha. What's in your garage right now? How long will we be here if we end up going through your whole list?
It's gotten shorter over the years. I mean, or over the last couple of years. But we got the 1971 Nissan Skyline Hakosuka. I got a 1971 Datsun 240Z. we got I guess I'll go in age order. I got a 1986 RX-7 FC. Got a 1986 a Toyota A86 Hachiroku initial D style. So is the 86 the RX-7 FC is also Red Sun's initial D style. We've got let's see, I have a 1990 Subaru Sambar. It's a K truck.
Okay, I was gonna say I haven't heard of that one.
That's
Gotcha.
a truck. I have a 93 Nissan Skyline. It's a GTST. Nice car. I have a 1995, I think Toyota Supra Mark IV right-hand drive. We have a 240 SX. I got my truck. There's probably a few more I forgot, but somewhere around in that list.
Do you have anything in Japan right now that you're waiting to become legal?
I always forget that car, the Murcielago.
Oh, nice. Was it a Japanese market car that you got here? Okay, gotcha.
No, I bought that car in Houston.
Okay, nice. That's sick. Yeah, that was my like poster car as a kid was the Murcielago. And fingers crossed, maybe I'll cut this part out, but maybe having Ed Bullion on the podcast sometime next month, and he's like the Murcielago guy. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him about all that.
Well, I know
Um,
it really well, and in fact, if your viewers would like to go to on VinWiki after they finish watching this, they can find several Steve's POV VinWiki episodes that I told that have gotten a lot of views. They were pretty good stories.
Oh, I've listened to them. They're awesome.
Thank
Yeah, I try not to like, the hard thing with Ed especially, I try not to have anyone like come on and tell a story or something that they've already, said 100 times, and that's gonna be a real challenge with Ed because that's his whole platform is sharing stories. Um, but is there anything in Japan that you have right now that is just waiting to become legal?
No, no, but when I go, I always have my eyes open. Something that, I mean, there's gonna be lots of other cars coming up. There's lots of K. I really like K cars. I like the little mini cars. I'm not. Speed is one thing. I mean, it's great, but I like different type of cars, things that other people don't have. So slow is okay for me.
Well, being in Texas where everything's massive, I'm sure you get a lot of looks just going down the street in a K truck.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
I'm sure that that probably pulls in more views off the street than like a Skyline or like even the Hakoska or something like that. Like I bet that just naturally just draws
it always
attention.
does. Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome. Well, so these Japanese cars that you have, did you buy them in Japan and then import them over, or were they already stateside?
No, most of them I brought myself, but I think a couple of them I found stateside, and a couple of the cars I mentioned are left-hand drive Japanese cars. They're not all right-hand drive. So, like the Z
Gotcha.
AE86 are US spec cars.
Okay, cool. So when you found these cars in Japan and brought them here, what was the hardest part about bringing them stateside?
Waiting the 2 week
Just the wait.
here, yeah, like hi, and, once I got on a boat, and you're like, man, I can't wait for it to get here. But it really was no big deal. I mean, in California, there was a bit of registration challenges sometimes, but for the most part, I owned a lot of them before I came here to Texas. In Texas, it's very easy to register the vehicles, and there's no.
Tennessee's about the same way. I mean, they got rid of our smog and all the emissions and all that stuff. And at one point, a little while ago, I had a E92 M3 that I pretty much straight piped with the valve mufflers. So I could be obnoxious when I wanted to, and also be very considerate at the same time. But I just bolted that on and did my registration and no questions asked. So yeah, it sounds like Texas is the same way. They don't really ask a lot of questions, which I love. And I think Japan is what I didn't know is Japan is like really strict about all this stuff. And the reason why you see a lot of these cars getting sold now is that is it true that it's harder to keep them registered in Japan? Like more expensive, like you have to go through more hoops, stuff like that.
Yes, the inspection system, the cost of things, everything else. It's very expensive to keep old cars, and the system I think was designed to keep people buying new cars, meaning get the old cars out, train people that old meant 20,000 miles to some people in Japan. They were like, "Oh my God, the car is so old," and truth is, it was like brand new, but hey, now it's time for something new. It's time for something new. So I think the Japanese auto manufacturers protected the domestic market there by continually pushing people into something new, having shaken or the, inspection system that's there that costs you money and progressively more as the car gets older and maybe more difficult to get parts and other stuff pushes you away from old and into new and so yeah, it's not easy to have to keep an old car there for a lot of other reasons too, but
Yeah, my dream JDM Cars and R34 GTR, which I'm not in that tax bracket to have one anytime soon, but something that's like coming closer to my reach is an S15. Oh
yeah.
my gosh, those aged so well. I love how they look, and I follow a few importers on Instagram, and I just saw one that had been swapped with a 1JZ, which I'm like, oh, perfect. So that it sounds really good, and not that there's anything wrong with the SR20, but I mean, I like the sound of a six cylinder more. And something that I learned after trying to buy one of these myself is that you have to basically pay for it in cash to get it brought over here. Like you can't finance a car that's not here yet, which is kind of a bummer to learn. But I'm saving my money. We'll see if I can get one here in a year or two. But
Yeah.
what would you say your favorite era of JDM cars is? Like, is it like I mean, I guess they're classics now. Is it like the '90s cars or like the actual like '70s, like the Hakoska, the Kinmary? Would you say that's like kind of more your speed?
I like the 70s a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
just
70.
the JDM or just in general muscle cars, what
I
have you?
think if I was going to go in American cars, I'd go back to the 50s and 60s with American cars. And then I think, Japanese cars, I like 70s and 80s cars of that era. I mean, not that I don't like 90s cars too. I think they're awesome, but I kind of I like the older stuff.
Yeah. What car meet should everyone experience in Japan? What's like the normal, like you're there, you have to go see this.
Well, I mean, I think some people have this misconception that Daikoku parking area is a meet. It's not a meet. It's a parking area. It's where people go to rest. It's where people are supposed to be able to park their trucks, get some food, take a squirt, take a nap, and get back, on the road and drive. But it's become this phenomenon of that's been built up into something that people have a misconception that this is a meet. And if you want to know why it gets closed down every Friday and Saturday night, it's because it's not a meet. It's a place where truck drivers want to sleep, where people want to rest and do all that. So but a lot of people like cars wind up going there. It's not illegal to go there. It's just not the intended purpose of what that place has become, and that's why there's some problems, and that's why it's become a hot topic, a hot issue there. Um, there's different meets all over Japan. There's other things depending on the season. There's car shows. There's other stuff too. But it does seem that everybody does want to go to Daikoku Tatsumi. Other,
Everybody wants their Fast and Furious experience,
yeah,
for better or for worse.
yeah.
Um,
That movie has had mega influence on people all around the world. So yeah, I could see why people would want to go to places like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've watched things like Daikoku and probably several other areas that kind of started off as like way more under the radar and kind of like low key, and then they transform into this phenomenon, like you said, where you have all these people visiting, a lot of locals too, still, because I ran into a few while I was out there and was kind of intimidated to talk to them, but as soon as I started asking them questions about their car, they were just they loved to talk about it. It was
Yeah.
awesome. But would you say like watching Taikoku grow and turn into this phenomenon, would you say it's had, for better for worse, would you say it's had a worse like impact on I guess Tokyo or like the car culture there, or would you say it's like a good thing?
A terrible impact on it. Great at all. I mean, and it could be not too long from now that they. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could see that they take action, just close it down, and make it the most where people go after. I mean, is that the right answer? I'm not saying it is, but the amount of people showing up there, the way people are showing up there, people climbing fences, people, hopping rides, guys doing illegal tours, and all the other stuff that circles around it. You know, I'm not the Japanese government, but I could certainly see them saying at some point, why are so many resources dedicated toward this? Let's figure out something else to do. I could see at some point some action being taken to control things better there at least at Daikoku for sure.
Yeah. Well, so going back, I guess a little bit, because you said it's like a rest stop, so obviously there's probably a conveni. There's tons everywhere.
Yes.
What's the number one convenience store thing to try?
I mean, there's a lot, man. It just depends on season. I mean, I think I'm a big egg sandwich guy. Egg and tuna sandwiches are my favorite. But and then I would say, yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. In the wintertime, I have the nikumang, or the meat buns, and the other things that are up by the registers. They're warm. There's a pizza one. There's a meat one. Those are probably one of my more favorite foods as well at the convenience stores.
I really loved the onigiri.
Yeah,
Gosh, so good. And a few times we went out a couple nights, and so it's so great to, wind down the night. You go into the konbini, maybe you get another drink, maybe, you get a little few snacks in there, and that was my go-to.
yeah,
And I really loved just how accessible that was, and just the variety of all the things. And uh, I'm not a like I'll eat anything. I'm not a picky eater, so we made some Japanese friends while they were there, and they're picking stuff off the shelves for us to try. And um, I tried I think it was the natto,
mm,
the beans,
yeah,
and they're like kind of laughing. They're like like try this, and so I took one bite, and they're watching me waiting for this reaction. I'm sure they've probably seen it 1,000 times before, and it actually wasn't that bad. Would it be my first pick going back? Definitely not, but I did give it a try, and I think it's like fermented beans or something like that. So it's got a very interesting flavor. I'll put it that way. But
well,
I
one
really
of
enjoyed
my
that.
favorite foods. So I eat it all the time. I love it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Um, well, so you're in a really unique position because you speak English, you speak Japanese, and so a lot of your videos are like half in English, half in Japanese, and then you'll subtitle it over based on whatever language you're speaking.
Yeah.
And because of that, a large portion of your audience is Japanese, right? Like, would you say majority of your audience are English speaking, like Americans or Japanese people?
Japanese.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Have you had to like what have you learned in I guess maybe the algorithm or like making videos for this audience? Like do you have to release them at a certain time? Have there been issues in trying to find like things that you want to talk about that they'll also be interested in?
Um, I mean, it's called Steve's POV because I said from day one I'm going to talk about stuff that I'm interested in, and if people happen to also be interested in it, I guess it'll get viewed. And if people aren't interested in it, don't you don't have to watch it. There's no requirement. But I didn't start off the channel to be a YouTuber, or, have million subs. I really started off to make new business connections, meet new people, try to develop some business after the Japanese economy kind of flatlined out at the end of the 90s and the early 2000s. There was, things that I was making money doing before that were not happening anymore. And I needed a way to connect with people, let people know that there's this Japanese speaking guy who's got a lot of experience in business in Japan, and lives in LA, and does this and that. So this was the way with my son that we decided to start something and end every video with kind of an appeal to people to, hey, reach out if you want to do business together. This is who I am. This is what I do. Send me an email. And to connect with people. And the video started hitting. I guess some topics that I had picked up on were of interest to other people. And then car people, I started meeting just because I love cars, guys. Yeah, we're talking about way back, when DDE started too. I mean, Damon and me kind of started around the same time. Maybe he was a little earlier than me, but really around the same time. When I went to Japan back in those days, people would point at me and say, YouTube, YouTube. And I was YouTube to a lot of people. They didn't know, they didn't necessarily remember Steve, but they'd point at me and say, YouTube. So this new thing that was kind of still up and coming, a face that was on it was YouTube. So, and that was, I don't know, just kind of morphed from there, developed from there.
Yeah, you've been doing it for a while. You were like pretty early on to the whole YouTube train before you could really even monetize it and make a living off of it like now. I mean, gosh, whenever I'm watching a video, I feel like I'm getting played an ad every 2 minutes or something like that, which is awesome that you just kind of hopped on that. What not even hopped on that train because it wasn't even a thing yet. But yeah, you're just like I'm gonna start making videos about stuff I want to talk about. I've seen the Japanese versus American salarymen. I've
Yeah,
seen that from a long time ago, and I got a kick out of that.
yeah.
And yeah, it's just crazy. You've been doing it for a while. It's really cool. Um, what do Japanese people think of American car culture?
I think they find it exciting. I think there's huge, American car fans, classic car fans. Moon Eyes is one of the biggest things in Japan. I mean, the lowrider culture, Latino culture, hydraulics. There's a whole group of guys who are into that. Guys who are into lead sleds, guys who are into American classic cars, guys who are into um um all of that, rockabilly, the denim, grease, slicking the hair back. There's all these guys who are into country music, guys who are into blues and other type of stuff like that. American whiskeys, American beers. Yeah, Americana is a big thing in Japan, and certainly with guys my age who grew up, looking at things or liking a lot of things American, finding them cool, cowboy culture, blue jean culture, car culture, stuff like that. Yeah, they find it cool in the same way that we look at Japanese stuff and say, "Wow, that's pretty cool." It's different.
How hard is it to own an American car in Japan? Are you like, do they have like some sort of tax system where if you have a larger engine, then it costs more? So, I mean, I saw several Camaros when I was there. I saw a new C8 Corvette, and that was something I wasn't really, it really caught my eye because I'd been anticipating seeing all these Japanese cars. As soon as I seen an American one, I'm like, wait, what? And I had to like, I was like, I'm not back in the States, am I? And then, hits on like, yeah, that's a C8 Corvette. Like in the street, I was in Ginza, saw
Yeah.
C8. I was like, that's awesome. Yeah, how hard is it to own one?
Right. It's expensive to own an American car there for a lot of reasons. I mean, like one you said, I mean, Japanese cars or American cars aside, I mean, displacement, engine displacement, overall size of the vehicle, and that will determine, the registration category it's going to fall into. So they're going to fall in under the 3 number classification, which is going to be, the biggest size of a vehicle that you can have. So it's certainly expensive in that sense. But on top of that, the car's got to be imported. The yen is a fraction of the dollar. It's the value to the dollar. So you've got this expensive American car, dollar based, that now's got to get to Japan. And then I don't think it's significant tariff or duty when it comes into the country. I don't know exactly what it is right now, but
I feel like it changes every day.
yeah, it could change quite a bit too, but it was never significant. But either way, then the registration of that vehicle, the inspection of that vehicle, there's going to be some, if it was gray market imported, there's going to be some localization things that need to be done for that vehicle, tail light colors. Like, we're okay with red on red, even with directionals, but in Japan, you must have a yellow, directional signal. It cannot be an embedded red or red flashing thing. So there's different things that come into things. So yeah, those guys paid a pretty penny to get some of those, that Corvette and some of those cars there.
It just goes to show how much they really must love the stuff that we have, just like how we love theirs. Let's see. I'm going through my list here. I'm cheating. I should have all this on the top of my head, but I'm new to podcasting. I gotta have a cheat sheet. Let's see. I'm just looking over my questions here. Oh yeah, going back to the JDM car market real quick. I meant to ask this a few minutes ago. Do you feel like it's in a bubble right now because all of these peak 90s era cars are just now becoming legal? Like, do you think we're going to see, I don't know if an R34 Skyline will ever be, $60,000 again like it was in 2010 or something like that. But do you think it's in a bubble?
Hmm. I mean, maybe some cars are, I mean, it might be the R34, some of these things, they got legal, they everybody went after to buy them. The prices went up, the yen went down, the auction prices went up, demand from America, all of a sudden 25 years old, they got it. And I think things got a little, everybody's got it on the thing. I mean, they may settle a little bit. I think if you look at R32 GTRs and R33s, I mean, they've kind of, R32 GTRs kind of were cheap, really cheap, man. I bought a beautiful one that, I paid 16, well, no, I paid less. I probably paid about 12 grand for that car. It was ruined
Wow.
everything else and owned it. And it's on my channel way back in the day, probably 9, 10 years ago. Great car. I don't even know if it cost 12,000. It was tuned. It was a monster. I should have really kept that car. But I wound up selling that car for close to 30 grand. And then those cars went up to 50 grand and 60 grand and everything else. I think now you could shop a nice 32 GTR that for, probably between the 40s and, a nice car in the 40s and up, could still find something. But I think they've kind of seemed like maybe they've planed off a little bit. R33s were undervalued. And now all of a sudden, R33, go try to find a clean R33. You're going to pay 60s, high 50s, 60s, 70s to get one. And then the 34s just took off. But, so I don't know. I mean, it may be a little bit of a bubble, but the truth of the matter is you're talking about, something that's not ever going to be made again. You're talking about stuff that, has desirability and collectability. You're talking about things that has demand because people want it. There's lots of kids your age and people younger than you even probably who grew up seeing these cars and would dream about having one and doing one. So there's probably a good run on these cars that values are going to stay strong for a while. It's not like they're making more of, you know, R34 GTRs, real cars or any of these things anymore. So I think they'll stay strong probably, maybe settle on some of the hype.
I'm exactly one of those kids. I remember when the R32 first became legal and I was in high school, and I saw them come in. I think Japanese Classics was the first like importer that I became aware of, and I think they're based out of Virginia. And I remember seeing them for like 30 grand, 32 grand, and I was like, yeah, I could probably own one of these someday. And of course, now that I'm, 27 and I have a job and I've got, not a lot of money, but like I've got a pillow to lay my head on every night. I'm doing okay. And now they're at like 60, and now you're seeing some examples, maybe not as clean, or maybe had some rust or some repaired rust spots and stuff like that. You're seeing them kind of come down to maybe like the 40 to 50 range and stuff like that. And it's still just like a little bit too far out of reach for me at the moment. But I'm crossing my fingers that, hopefully things will go well and I'll be able to own one of those cars one day.
Hopefully.
Well, so how has your perspective changed on America from what you've learned in Japan, living there, learning the culture and all of that that goes along with it?
Um, hmm. Well, I mean, we're very we're very different. I mean, Jap
Yeah.
do
Can you
things.
even can you even compare them?
Yeah, I mean, there's comparable things. I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, America has a lot of very good people, and Japan has a lot of very good people. America has very proud people, and so does Japan. But Japanese do things by the letter, by the rule, by the manual, by the book, by the way it's supposed to be done. We are a little more kind of about and things that we do. We're a little bit more wild and not following rules and doing things as prescribed. Japanese are very about etiquette and manners. We've forgot a lot of those things or don't subscribe to 'em. Not everybody, but that's why when I came to Texas and met kids who I thought knew how to understand yes sir and yes ma'am and that type of thing, it was refreshing that there is people that kids that are still being taught good manners. In Japan it wouldn't be like the little kids if I mean they're taught respectful ways to speak to people and that's what they're expected to do. People in Japan give a shit about what they do, whether it's a small, regular basic task or it's something then they care, they take pride in it. You don't really hear too much complaining from people. They suck it up. They do what they got to do. think about other people and what they do. There's a lot of things that go on there that we could learn, or not just learn, but refresh our ways of thinking about certain scenarios and say, yeah, maybe but then again, you could argue, Japan's a very rigid society. There's a saying that the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. I mean, I guess you could say, people are all the same. People act all the same. They do all this. There's no individual stuff. I don't think that's the case. But I came up with a formula. The formula is, you got Japan multiplied by USA, and then that result divided by two. So I mean, basically, just meshing the two, taking the best of Japan and the best of things here, meaning our individualism, our creative, our willing to take risks and things that Japanese don't do, and combine that with that conservative, more richer, structured approach and rules and respect for law and order and the way things that should be done in certain ways. Combine those together somehow, and y- I think you got a really good approach, a very good, way of doing things and thinking.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And something that I noticed is that whether it's somebody that's working at a konbini or somebody that's maybe a marketing executive in Japan, they take pride in their jobs. And like I feel like that's something that we could definitely learn from them. Whether you're working at a restaurant as a waiter or server or bartender just to make ends meet, and you can complain about it, and is that it's not going to get you anywhere, but that's the Japanese people don't do that. They really do take pride in everything they do, and also just in in their cities and towns, like it's so clean. Like something that took me aback was their I'd be carrying around like a water bottle or something, just trying to stay hydrated. We're doing like 30,000 steps a day or something like that, and it's so clean that there's not even like a trash can on every street corner to throw stuff away. I mean, sometimes I'd be walking around for 20 or 30 minutes before I'd find a trash can that I could throw stuff away in. And obviously, I'm a guest. I'm not going to leave it, on a street corner somewhere for somebody else to throw away. Like I'm not, that's not fair to them. And I was just amazed by that. And I think we definitely have some things like that that we can learn from them and maybe relearn, because I feel like we definitely had it at some point and just lost it over time.
Yep. I,
Yeah.
I agree.
And just so you know, if I it just started storming here in Tennessee, so if my power cuts out and my Wi-Fi goes out, that's why. If you see me just suddenly disconnect, it flickered for a second there, so I'm just
Oh,
I'm
we're
just
good.
letting you know
We're
now.
good.
But so who would you say has the better car culture, America or Japan? Maybe that's a hot take.
I don't know that there's a better car culture. They're different, and each one is great in their own way. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. I think they're both distinct. They're both unique. There's the qualities that tie them together, but one better than the other. I don't. They're the same to me. They're both.
Yeah, a lot of good things about both,
Yep.
100%. Well, I'm going through my list again. I mean, we've been kind of firing these questions off. We're going through a lot more than I thought we would. Is there a place in Japan that still feels special every single time you visit?
I mean, just in general, I mean, I go back 4 or 5 times a year, but just in general, I have a revived feeling when I go there. I feel like doing stuff. I feel like meeting people. I feel like getting out and, eating and experiencing and talking and meeting people and interacting with fans of the channel and, meeting people that I've known for, you know, dozens of years now that, I've had relationships and continue to have relationship with, just seeing them and catching up. It's motivating. I leave Japan then after a few days and I come back and I get a wind of motivation and that, makes me want to work harder and be better. And, somebody there has that type of, it gives me that motivation, so, just going there in general. I don't know that one particular place. I mean, there's lots of beautiful places. Hiroshima's a nice place. But there's lots of places there. I like going to new places and experiencing new things. So just the country in general.
I yeah, I've only seen 3 cities of it, and I'm my right now my motivation is to work hard so that I can go back. Right now, it's a matter of I used all of my PTO, my vacation time to go last year. I went
Yeah,
into the I went into the negative, so right now I owe my boss a couple hours, but right now it's a matter of all right, how hard do I have to work to go back there? Like me and my roommate were already planning our next trip and all the spots that we want to go next now that we've already hit, the big three, Tokyo,
yeah.
Kyoto, Osaka. And it sounds like I need to add Hiroshima to my list.
I would
Yeah.
definitely,
And a
there's
lot
plenty.
of lot of history and
Yeah,
cultural significance going on there,
yeah,
100%. Do you mind if we go into this Stagea that I found?
sure.
Yeah, do you have that doc pulled up? I mean, I'll pull it up on the screen and editing. Um I can find a way to fire. I think I can fire you the link real quick, through the chat in here. Let's see.
If you could send it that way, oh, here it is.
Yeah. Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
So this is I usually, for the people that are listening that don't listen to this show, typically we have a section called Marketplace Finds where we go into the black hole that's known as Facebook Marketplace, where you can find about anything on there, especially car wise. But I thought for this, it'd be fun to look at something on the Japanese market and kind of talk about it. And I chose something that was under 6 million yen. So I believe that's around like $40,000 US, maybe a couple grand off there. But I went on there and I found this wagon, this Stagea 260 RS. So it's not just any station wagon, but it's got the RB26. It's a family wagon. Like you could fit your kids in this. I mean, there's not a third row, but you've got all that real estate in the back. I've got a soft spot for wagons. I love this car. And then when I saw the R34 front end conversion on it, that was a real thing, I was like, oh, I have to own one of these one day. And so I'll put it on the screen, post edit, but it's a white car. And I like white cars. Every single car I've ever owned has been white. That's not intentional. It's not intentional at all. It's just when I found the car I liked, it happened to be white. And I've only ever owned 3 cars, so it's not a long laundry list. But this thing's so cool. I would obviously, if I bought this or had the money to buy it right now, I'd maybe it's considered sacrilegious, but I'd swap the R34 front end onto it and call it a day. It's already got the engine. It looks like it's factory 5-speed manual. Maybe it's rear wheel drive. I'm not sure, but I love these cars.
Yeah, I like this car too. I like wagons. This is a cool one. Nice white with the black and gray interior. Clean car. I mean, in US dollar terms, it's about $33,000.
Okay, so a little bit cheaper than I thought it'd be. That's not bad. But I mean, as I talked about earlier, my problem is I'd have to fork all that up in one place and get it done. It's like, Steve, I'm 27. I'm saving up for a house. I gotta do the responsible thing. I'm in a rental house right now, but I mean the market's not cooling off anytime soon. So you can't drive a house, right?
And no, no, can't do that. So yeah, this is a nice car, but that's the price, and you got to bring it here. Obviously, you got gonna have some duty on it and other stuff too. So, um, but there's cars in the United States you can find too. If you look around, there's Stagias here. There's cars that have already been converted to the R34. You probably got to pay might have to pay more than 32 grand for some of them, but
And that's the problem. I mean, I guess if I'm financing, I'm working with somebody else's money, right?
you buy
But
one that's
gosh,
here that somebody's got. If you got to finance, but then you got to find a car that's landed here already. That a company that does the financing will do for you.
that's right. Well, so if you had 6 million yen sitting around right now, or I guess maybe closer to five, so like $33,000, and you're like, you have to spend this money. What's something that you're gonna go start looking for? Would it be a really clean FC? Would you look for an FD?
I'm
What's
a big
something that
FD
you want to
fan.
add?
So yeah, I would. I mean, FDs are fantastic. I would really. I think that's a car that's going to be on my radar one day. FD, Honda S2000s. That's another really good car, I think.
Yeah, the Japanese market for those, they're probably just starting to become legal if they're not already.
I think we're right about there. I think probably getting close. So, the S2000 is going to be a good one. Yeah, I mean these stages. There's going to be so many good cars, but an RX-7 FD is another good car too that I would look at for sure.
Yeah. Would you say? when you're shopping for another car, would you say an FD is going to be what's next?
Well, unless I found a Ken Mary or a Japan or something from that generation, after that, I think I'd prefer to line up my Skylines, my old classic Skylines, and go maybe. But an RX-7 FD would be a good car, yeah, for sure.
I really like the Ken Marys. That's probably my favorite era of like the classic Skyline. I don't know. I just like the way they look. Like I like the not it's not a fastback, but it's kind of got that like fastback styling, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm not using the right terms if you know what I'm trying to say, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's my like 70s JDM classic is the Kinmary. And I was looking in the history of why it's called that, and it was because of like a marketing thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ken and Mary. I mean, again, a lot of things in that era were influenced by things in America. Look at some of the designs of the cars. Look at some of the other things they came Nissan Glorias back then, Cedrics, other cars that had a lot of like design elements that really look like 70s American cars too. So, a blonde girl and a good looking dude, Ken and Mary, and that I think it was a whole advertising campaign around whatever they determined was going to be appealing to people in Japan, calling a Nissan a model of Ken and Mary. And that's really, I think, I don't know. There may be more to the story, but I think that's part of it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, real quick, I have one more question and then we'll
Yep.
get into the last section. So how did you meet the Drift King Keiichi Tsuchiya?
Um, well, it's he approached me.
Really?
Yeah, his people wrote me about 2 years ago, and they have a TV show that they do in Japan, and they invited me to go to Gunsai in there and to go driving with him and to be on their TV show, and they agreed that I could film for Steve's POV. So if you go back on Steve's POV about a year and a half, 2 years ago in footage, you just put Drift King Steve's POV, you will see three or four great videos. Me riding with him in the mountains, drifting in the toge and legally, not illegal, but doing that. And we go to dinner together when I go to back now. We chat. We become quite friendly. We went for sushi last time we were there. I brought him in on DDE on the video, which is probably why you know of my relationship with him. But I invited him that night to join us for dinner. He did. Well, I was going to, if Damon made the trip, I was going to try to get him to go drifting with Damon, to do something really cool where he would have been on it, but Damon wasn't able to come. So, um, I said to Dave that, I'm going to invite a good friend and let's show him Damon's drifting skills and let's get him to evaluate it. And he did. And he said he was all right. He said he was a little rough on the throttle. He needed to be a little smoother with his throttle work, but yeah, he's a really nice guy, a really, really nice guy.
That's so cool. And you also were hanging out with him at the Tokyo Auto Salon, right?
Yeah, I always see him at Tokyo Auto Salon. I usually stop by his booth. I usually film a segment for Steve's POV. He usually, we sit down and talk. And he gave me a bunch of shirts and a bunch of stuff this time. But yeah, I see him at not Tokyo Auto Salon, at Osaka Auto Messe.
Okay.
That's the event that I have been an invited guest at for the last few years, and so is he. So we've both become friendly. I think really that might have been where we originally became kind of met once, filmed something. Then he approached me to do something with his TV show, which I was like, wow, that's quite an honor. And I took my son and his girlfriend and we went up and met them and we drove with him. Had a great day. It was really fun.
Is it intimidating or surreal being in the car with him as he's just sliding around these mountains?
Yeah, I mean, you, I guess intimidating could be a word. Yeah. I mean, he drives fast. What is he, 70 something years old? And the guy can drive. He's fast. He's good. He knows what he's doing and he's fun. It's quite intimidating. Could be a good
Yeah.
word for it. Yes.
I mean, he's probably been doing it for almost probably 40 or 50 years at this point, right? So at least you know you're in the hands of like the master.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think there's anybody better that he'd be in the car with. Maybe there's younger people a little more, able or agile or whatever nowadays than him, but he's pretty damn good, and I would like to ride with him anytime. I think anybody would experience that and be pretty impressed.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I don't have a drift car, but I do quite a bit of it on the sim quite behind me. So that's probably before I go to the bank asking for money for a Skyline, I may have to buy a drift car and try my hand at it for a little bit. So I had to ask. I was really curious about that. Well, we'll end it real quick in this section I like to call kick or keep. And so I'll say like a car or a mod or a trend or something like that, and so kick it, kick one, or keep one. And so, for example, and I think I already know your answer to this, but we'll go keep one, kick one, the Hakoska or the Kinmary Skyline.
Oh, if I had to keep or kick,
Yeah.
that
So if
I
you have to keep
do.
one and kick one, like that, what's going to be the keep?
Well, I mean, yeah, the Hakoska has to be the keep. I mean,
Yeah, I figured.
can't kick that car. So yes.
What about the R32 GTR or the R34? So like, as in you're handed the key, they're both right in front of you. You're handed the keys, but you can only pick one.
Oh, an R34.
Yeah, I respect that. I'm the
Not because
same
I
way.
like it more, but I mean, listen, I could go buy three R30 with that. I would probably, I like an R32 in some ways better than the R34, but if that would be on a pure, business decision where I would say, okay, great, an R34 GTR, let's sell that car for a couple $100,000 and go buy, three nice, or whatever, one R32 GTR and three other cars that I want.
I guess I never said you had to hold on to it forever. That's fair. That makes
That
sense.
out there. So yes, that's the way I approached that one.
So, all right. So, kick one, keep one. Tatsumi parking area or Daikoku parking area. If you can
I,
never go to one ever again, which one's it going to be?
well, you got to keep Daikoku. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pure
Um.
size and just. I mean, Tatsumi's not. It's nice and everything else, but it's just it's not big. It's not a big parking area.
Yeah. We'll do one more. Keep one, kick one. Japanese convenience stores or Japanese vending machines.
Convenience stores.
Yeah. The
This
convenience stores. The vending machines are really, really impressive.
vending machines are fantastic. I love vending machines, but there is right now there are less and less vending machines than there used to be.
Really.
Yep, there's different reasons for it. Vending machines costs have gone up. The cost of things in the machines have gone up. People figured out they can go to stores and buy it cheaper. Yes, it's convenient. Yes, the technology is there. There's also crime that used to never exist that targets vending machines. So there's that, and there's other things that hadn't been there before. But I love the vending culture. It's something I've done videos and videos. I made tons of Steve's POV videos about vending cultures. I went into a retro vending place that's now gone, but 5-6 years ago when I went there, it was run by a lady who was in her 90s. They had hamburgers coming out of vending machines, ramen coming out of vending machines, um, stuff that was like these vending machines, and they were from the 50s and 60s. Some of the vending machines, so in
Wow.
70s, and so true retro stuff that really I had never seen before. I really like. So love the vending culture, but obviously a convenience store, you have everything in the vending machine plus everything else. So yeah, keeping the convenience stores.
Yeah, something that was kind of a culture shock for me was how much cash is still prevalent in their society. And
Yep.
while we've gone pretty much cashless, I probably have maybe $2 in my. I've got like a lucky $2 bill. I'm staring at it right now. I've got like a lucky $2 bill in there, and like that's it. And then I had to pull out. I think I pulled out like $200 or cash or something like that just for the trip. And I don't think I used all of it, but it was what was surprising me was the frequency in which I was using it. Like, I mean, a lot of restaurant, like some of the nicer sit down restaurants and stuff like that, they'll obviously take cards still.
Yeah.
But a lot of these kind of hole in the wall places or some of the izakayas and stuff like that are cash only.
Yep.
And that was pretty crazy to me. A bit of a culture shock is how much they still use cash there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's less than it was back in the 90s and 2000. Nobody used credit cards for anything. You had big piles
yeah.
of cash is what you carried around with you. But nowadays it's changed a lot. Most places have credit cards. Most places have that. And there's not, but there, compared to here, it's certainly more cash heavy. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I appreciate you coming on. So obviously you're Steve's POV. We can find you on YouTube there. I think you have, there you go. I think you have, do you have a restaurant, a Japanese themed restaurant in Texas? So all the people listening that are from Texas, where can they find you there and support you?
I have two places. One is in Plano, Texas, and one is in McKinney, Texas. But they're both called Hoshi, Hoshi. Hoshi means star. That is the way I took the Lone Star State of Texas and connected it to Japan. It's also the star is his emblem that and a symbol that we use on on customizing. I have it on the top of my Lambo. I have it on other cars. I like stars. Stars are cool, and so it tied Texas and Japan and car culture all together. And it's called Hoshi, and we have a Japanese cafe, and then I have a Japanese barbecue restaurant in McKinney.
Ooh.
Both are really awesome and fun, and we have live music, and we have a full bar at the one place. We have Japanese whiskeys, sake, shochu, all kinds of great stuff, and a great Japanese barbecue menu of Texas Wagyu beef. So
Oh
really
my
a
gosh.
Texas and Japan together in one place. People really seem to be enjoying.
Well, gosh, I almost want to. I need to take a trip to Texas now because I want to try. I want to try that. So it's Texas Wagyu. I really want to try that. I'm not even sure what that is. That sounds awesome.
That's Japanese DNA cows being born and bred in Texas, and they maintain the marbling and the softness and the delicious melt in your mouth texture of Japanese beef that is, Wagyu beef that is popular around the world. But it's this is from the state of Texas, where it's the cows have come and where we purchased the meat here locally. So it's fantastic tasting stuff, and it's a lot of fun. When people do Japanese barbecue, they have fun. They do something a barbecue style. Texas is barbecue country. It's all about barbecue here, but it's a very different style of barbecue. So when people experience Japanese barbecue for the first time, they really enjoy it, especially in the environment that Hoshi Ranch is.
Well, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to try it. Steve, thank you so much for doing this. Made my month. I can't thank you enough for your time, for being on here, for discussing all this stuff with me. And I guess we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.